You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey everybody, good morning.
It's going to be a good day.
It is. It's going to be a good day.
I feel great today because I'm wearing a vest.
By the way, do you know who that sings that?
What?
It's Jonas Brothers.
Okay.
It's going to be a good day.
I figured.
Hey, did you just say you're going to have a good day because you're wearing a vest?
Yeah, I feel good about it. It's been cold lately. I'm wearing a vest like every day lately because it's cold outside.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
That's the reason why it's going to be a good day.
I'm wearing a vest and you're not.
You woke up. Well, I'm going straight to the HFP to work out.
To the gym.
I'm going to the gym.
I'm
going to the gym.
Yeah.
Hey, so you got to
turn into a musclehead, aren't you?
No, not even close. I just want to bend over without grunting. That's it. That's my goal in life.
Okay.
Hey, so you went into the closet and you're like, you know what? I want today to be a good day, and so you reached for your vest.
My good day vest. Yeah, that's right.
That's awesome.
You just want to bend over without grunting.
Yeah.
Well, the older I get, the more I felt like when I bend over now, like to put on my socks or something, I like. Is there anything else I need to do while I'm down here? Because I don't want to do it again.
I don't want to do it again. I'm down here. I might as well look.
Yeah, look around. Is there anything else I'm gonna? Yeah. No, I guess I'm done. All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
right. Yeah. That's my goal in life. It's not to become a meathead. It's so that I can move.
Okay.
And work.
I thought maybe you were, beefing up because you're secretly gonna beat me up someday out in the parking lot or something.
Wow, that would be a goal, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm training. Must beat Jeff up.
This is like a Rocky movie, right? You just.
We're like Michael Scott and training for
that's
what
right.
is it? Threat Level Midnight.
That's right.
That's funny. All right.
Well, hey, Chris, today we have a really good segment.
What a weird and yet hopefully delightful segment.
This is great. Now, I'm going to take credit for this one.
Okay.
We were sitting in a board meeting.
We were.
You and I.
We were.
And some joke came up about the Bible Guys podcast.
Yep.
Which is always shocking to me. Anybody make a joke about a serious podcast like this?
Yeah, what the heck?
And then we got to talking about theme songs.
Right.
And then I thought, wouldn't it be fun if we had a theme song? And I suggested like different TV shows that had the tune, right?
Yeah.
Well, then all of a sudden we type it into ChatGPT. We get AI to write us lyrics.
And I think you tried Happy Days.
Happy Days, yeah, which was great.
Sunday, Monday,
well, then,
Happy Days.
After the meeting was over, we're cleaning up, and I walked through the commons area in the offices, and Des is still in the office.
Yeah, she sure was.
Right? It was late in the evening, but she was still there. And I was like, Des, you gotta, we just had a new idea. And so it's the Bible Guys theme song, right? Because we don't have a great Bible Guys theme song.
No, we don't have any.
So today, what she wants to do is maybe make this a segment where we start exploring different theme songs. And so today, here, what we're going to do is we're going to take the theme song, the tune from the Flintstones, and we're going to have you rework it to spotlight the Bible Guys. So here's what I did. I went to AI, and I said, help me write the lyrics to a theme song for a podcast called The Bible Guys, whose theme is a couple of friends who like to talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways. Make it fun and lighthearted, write it to the tune of the Flintstones. And this is what it gave us right here, Chris. So just sing these lyrics for us. Whip it out real quick. And maybe if it's good, maybe we'll make it the official theme song of the Bible Guys.
First of all, this does not fit perfectly, I can tell. And I'm going to butcher this.
Oh, come on.
But we're going to try it.
You're amazing.
Okay, ready?
You're amazing, yes.
Oh, jeez. I can't even believe I'm gearing up to do this.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
The funny thing is you are.
I am. This is going to be fabulous.
Ready?
Okay, yep.
All right.
Dum, 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 da, dum, dum.
Yeah,
okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, ready? Bible Guys. It's the Bible Guys. Two good friends who make you laugh and learn. Grab a chair. Dive into the Word. Every day's a fun new twist and turn. Talking faith, cracking jokes, it's wild, breaking down the Bible with some style. When you're with the Bible Guys, you'll be smiling till your cheeks collide. It's the Bible Guys. It's the Bible Guys. Hit play now, don't let the fun pass by. That is terrible.
I love it.
It's terrible.
I love it. This has to be a new weekly segment. We have to include
weekly?
Every week.
I don't know about weekly.
Maybe twice a week. Des, let's think about doing it twice a week. This delights me.
No. Let us. First of all, I don't know that many tunes.
Oh,
so
you know a bunch of them.
It's going to be limited to the number of tunes.
Oh man, we can do. There's a ton of. We can do Green Acres. Green Acres
is the place for me.
We could do.
But I don't know
the Addams Family.
But I don't know the whole thing.
Oh, that's all right. I just want to hear you start it.
That's the thing. I don't know. I know I know the whole thing of like maybe 10.
Yeah. How about the 18?
We could only do 18 was just a musical, wasn't it?
Okay.
There wasn't words.
You're right. There wasn't any.
Yeah.
Dukes of Hazzard. We can have you do that.
Yeah. You know what? If you choose any 80s ones, I'm pretty good to go there.
That's what I'm saying. We gotta. Yeah. That'd be great.
I could do Dukes of Hazzard. I could do Three's Company. I could do Cheers.
Okay, that's what we need to do.
Happy
okay,
Days.
Des, you heard
I could do Brady Bunch.
Those are your marching orders right there. Oh, Brady Bunch. That'd be a good one.
Yeah. I could do anything in the 80s. Usually,
okay.
I could do.
Okay.
Yeah. That's really funny. Although I didn't do that one very well. I'm tempted to.
Okay. Well, that just makes me so happy.
Do some voice exercises and try that again, maybe.
Yeah. No, that just makes me so happy. Thank you, Des. You know who wasn't happy? The king of Israel.
Ben-Hadad.
Ben-Hadad. The king of Israel. He wasn't happy, especially with Elisha.
That's so funny. You're right. He actually gets very angry at Elisha.
Yes, and this is Ben-Hadad II, the second.
Yes.
Historically, for all of our ancient historian friends out there listening.
Yes.
Because, people on that level listen to our shows all the time.
And, of course, everybody is familiar
with... Is he talking about Ben-Hadad or Ben-Hadad II?
That is not the question people are thinking.
Okay.
No, they're thinking, I wonder what song Chris is going to do next.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so funny.
Let's be realistic.
That's so funny.
Yeah, if anybody stayed with us for 6 minutes and 50 seconds of that, they're not asking, is this Ben-Hadad or Ben-Hadad II?
That's correct.
Okay. So in 2 Kings chapter 6, it says this. Sometime later, however, King Ben-Hadad of Aram mustered his entire army and besieged Samaria. As a result, there was a great famine in the city. The siege lasted so long that a donkey's head sold for 80 pieces of silver and a cup of dove's dung sold for 5 pieces of silver.
Wow.
I'm not exactly sure in what circumstance you needed to buy a cup of dove's dung, to be honest with you.
Hello, do you have an extra cup of dove dung? I'm not sure what that accent is.
Cockney accent. That's right. Yeah. One day, as the king of Israel was walking along the wall of the city, a woman called him, "Please help me, my lord the king." He answered, "If the Lord doesn't help you, what can I do? I have neither food from the threshing floor nor wine from the press to give you." But then the king asked, "What is the matter?" She replied, "This woman said to me, 'Come on, let's eat your son today, and then we'll eat my son tomorrow.' So we cooked my son and ate him. Then the next day I said to her, 'Kill your son so we can eat him,' but she had hidden her son." When the king heard this, he tore his clothes in despair. As the king walked along the wall, the people could see that he was wearing burlap under his robe next to his skin. "May God strike me and even kill me if I don't separate Elisha's head from his shoulders this very day," the king vowed. Elisha was sitting in his house with the elders of Israel when the king sent a messenger to summon him. But before the messenger arrived, Elisha said to the elders, "A murderer has sent a man to cut off my head. When he arrives, shut the door and keep him out. We will soon hear his master's steps following him." While Elisha was still saying this, the messenger arrived. And the king said, "All this misery is from the Lord. Why should I wait for the Lord any longer?" And Elisha replied, "Listen to this message from the Lord. This is what the Lord says. By this time tomorrow, in the markets of Samaria, 5 quarts of choice flour will cost only 1 piece of silver, and 10 quarts of barley grain will cost only 1 piece of silver." The officer assisting the king said to the man of God, "That couldn't happen even if the Lord opened the windows of heaven." But Elisha replied, "You will see it happen with your own eyes, but you won't be able to eat any of it." Wow.
You'll see it happen with your own eyes, but you won't be able to eat any of it.
That's right.
Implying that his fate may not be good.
Well, it's pretty rough.
Well, first of all, this is a horrible, horrible story.
What a terrible story.
It is a terrible story.
Yeah.
It is one of these stories where, did you ever see a movie where it's
I have.
Oh, good, Jeff. All right, the end. That's what I was meaning.
Okay.
Did you ever see any movie? That's of course my question.
Yes.
No. Did you ever see a movie like Schindler's List?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Or Amistad? Did you ever see Amistad?
No. The ship. The ship that crashed? Yeah, in Ecuador? Yeah.
So it's just one of these stories that it's like, hey, we have to tell this story because it's an important part of history. It shows obviously a side of humanity that is real.
Yes.
And then of course, in this case, God is gonna, rescue them in a miraculous way.
Yeah.
But how, I just can't imagine. And none of us can. Hey, let's kill your son and let's cook him today.
And then
We'll kill my son and we'll cook him tomorrow.
Right.
Which implies, of course, they had to kill him.
Horrific.
Unless they both. No. If she's having her son, the son's alive, right?
Yeah.
So absolutely the worst of circumstances that you could ever imagine. So how starving do you have to be to start eating people?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it has to be the very last resort, of course. And especially your own kin,
right?
And so it's horrific to even talk about, to even think about, and so this is one of those things where it sort of makes me angry a little bit. It's like, so if God, was going to intervene, why couldn't He intervene before the woman cooked the son?
Yeah,
right. Like why are we waiting until after this story? So, but then again, there was a lot of misery in those days that just unfolded until God stepped in.
Well, I think the reason why this happens, by the way, is God warned them it would in Deuteronomy chapter 28. So He said, if the people of Israel reject me, there'll be a day when mothers will eat their children. There'll be a day when you can't afford to buy anything. There'll be a day when He warned them about this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. It might have been 1,000 years before this. That if it gets to this point, so it's not like it should be a shock. This is where they ended up because their choices got them here, right? So I have compassion for the mother, but it doesn't make God unjust. As a matter of fact, these people have been rebelling against God for hundreds of years.
So paying for the sins of your fathers.
Well, their own sins. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we just talked about the kinds of sins that these people were committing. The one guy sacrificed
in Samaria.
Yeah, these are the Samaritan or the Israelite king just recently sacrificed his own son in a burnt offering on the wall, and the people were mad at
Elijah.
Yeah, right. Not at the king.
Right.
Because that's okay. Well, that's what we have to do sometimes.
Right.
So the total depravity of these people, God had warned them in the book of Deuteronomy that if you go down this path, you're going to become so totally depraved that the only response left is horrific judgment. And God told them stuff like this in Deuteronomy chapter 28. So really, God was unbelievably patient to go this long because their behaviors qualified a long time ago for that judgment that God promised would happen if you cross those lines.
Right.
So to make it clear, be clear, you don't have to cross those lines. You don't have to do those things. But if you do, how often do we say, you're free to make your choices, you're not free to choose the consequences? Remember how the end of Deuteronomy ends. It's this passage. The end of Deuteronomy says, was it 28 or whatever? Towards the end of the book of Deuteronomy, he says, I'm giving you a choice between life and death. I'm giving you a choice between blessings and cursings. And then he says, oh, that you would choose life.
Right.
And then for hundreds of years, they didn't choose God, right? For a very long time, king after king after king after king, they rebel against God, and they get more and more and more depraved in their worship practices, Ashtoreth and all those gods, and in their practical everyday living. And so finally God goes, okay, I don't have any other option. I'm going to send this evil king, Ben-Hadad. He's going to circle the city of Samaria. He's going to besiege you, and you're going to have some rough times. It's what's coming. And it's interesting to me that at this point, the king is wearing burlap, is showing that he's grieving. It's burlap's underneath his clothes. He's grieving over this. He's trying to,
because that was a sign of grieving.
That was a sign of grief. But yeah, and then he blames Elisha for it. You know?
Right. And I love the note here in the Life Application Study Bible. It says, why did the king blame Elisha for the famine and the troubles for the siege? Here are some possible reasons. Number one, some commentators say that Elisha must have told the king to trust God for deliverance, because the king did this even when he wore burlap. Because, by the way, that's a good conclusion, because the king did say, why should I wait on the Lord any longer? Right. So and why would he, why else would he blame Elisha for that?
I just keep waiting and waiting and waiting.
Right. In other words, that must have been the word from Elisha, right?
Right.
But at this point, the situation seemed hopeless, and apparently the king thought Elisha had given him bad advice, and not even God could help them. So that's the first one. The second one. Number two, for years, the king of Israel and the prophets of God had been in conflict. The prophets often predicted doom because of the king's evil, so the king saw them as troublemakers. Thus, Israel's king was striking out in frustration at Elisha. And by the way, that is also true. There's evidence of that as well.
Right.
And then number three, the king may have remembered when Elisha helped bring an end to the famine in 1 Kings 18. Knowing Elisha was a man of God, perhaps the king thought he could try to do any miracle he wanted, and he was angry that he had not come to Israel's rescue.
Yeah.
And by the way, those are three great reasons, or it could be all the above.
Yeah, could be all of them.
Yeah.
So let me go back to Deuteronomy, because remember, Israel, these aren't people who don't know God's word. These aren't people who just, pagans running around the world just doing their own thing and never having exposure to God. These are people who've had God directly and miraculously intervene over and over and over and over and over again in their history. And then they're a very verbal culture, oral culture. So they retell their stories over and over. It's what the synagogue's all about, is retelling the stories of God, right?
Right.
So in Deuteronomy, which is the law, they quote the law. The good boys and the good girls in Israel, the good boys and the good girls in Judah, they memorize the law, all 5 books.
Yeah, by the time they were 12.
Every word.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of Deuteronomy, he says, listen, if you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully keep all his commands that I'm giving you today, the Lord God will set you high above all the nations of the world. And you'll experience all these blessings if you obey the Lord your God. Your towns and your fields will be blessed. Your children and your crops will be blessed. The offspring of your herds and flocks will be blessed. Your fruit baskets and breadboards will be blessed. Wherever you go, whatever you do, you'll be blessed. I'm like, hey, that sounds like a good deal. Mm-hmm. That's a good deal. The God of the universe is promising this. The Lord will conquer your enemies when they attack you. The Lord will guarantee a blessing on everything you do and will fill your storehouses with grain. The Lord your God will bless you in the land he's giving you. If you obey the commands of the Lord your God and walk in his ways, the Lord will establish you as his holy people, as he swore he would do. Then all of the nations will see that you are the people claimed by the Lord, and they will stand in awe of you. The Lord will give you prosperity in the land he swore to your ancestors, and blessing you with many children, numerous livestock, and abundant crops. The Lord will send rain at the proper time for his rich treasury in the heavens, and will bless all the work you do. You will lend to many nations, but you will never need to borrow from them. If you listen to these commands of the Lord your God that I'm giving you today, if you carefully obey them, the Lord will make you the head and not the tail, and you will always be on top and never at the bottom. You must not turn away from any of the commands I'm giving you today, nor follow after other gods and worship them. It's a pretty good promise.
Yeah.
Then he turns the page and he says, but if you refuse to listen to the Lord your God and do not obey the commands and decrees I've given you today, all these curses will come overwhelm you. Your towns and your fields will be cursed. Your fruit baskets and breadboards will be cursed. Your children and your crops will be cursed. The offspring of your herds and flocks will be cursed. Wherever you go, whatever you do, you'll be cursed. And then he goes on and he reverses all the blessings. And he says, if you refuse to follow me, then all the blessings I promised before, now you'll be cursed. So much so that you finally get to the point where he says that I'll even send your enemies to wipe you out. Before I said I'd fight for you and give you victory. But now I'm going to send your enemies to wipe you out. And he literally says, the siege and terrible distress of the enemy's attack will be so severe that you will eat the flesh of your own sons and daughters, whom the Lord your God has given you.
Well, there it is.
Yeah. And then it gets horrible, what he's talking about here, all the next things that are coming. He told them this would happen. And how far is this in advance, right? How many years was Moses' writings from this? It's 1,000 years?
So what you're saying is it's not as if they were unaware of these because they had memorized them.
They memorized them.
Yeah.
They should have. This is
Right.
why God said, teach your people, teach your children,
Right.
everything. And so what happened was they knew these words. They knew God's warning, but then they chose instead to sacrifice babies or children on the walls. The king, for
Right.
crying out loud. They chose to put up the Ashtoreth poles and to live in debauchery. They chose worship other gods and all these things. And so God said, I told you this would happen. It's not like God's a bad guy. God said, if you do this, I'm going to give you absurd blessing. Look at David and his kingdom. Or if you do this, it's going to be horrific. And a dozen kings later, it was. It was
Right.
a nightmare. So oftentimes the nightmares that are in our lives it's not God. It's the result of our own bad choices, right? And we leave God no choice at that point. And that's what happens. It's horrible. So I have great compassion for these women.
Yeah.
Right? How horrible. What a horrible place to be. And at the same time, the people brought it on themselves, right?
Well, the application for today is, obviously, we're not the generation that falls under we're not in any danger of getting besieged by a king in our neighborhood, probably, right?
Not in America.
Not in America.
Not today.
But the principle is transferable. That says that when God says, "Follow me and you'll be blessed,"
Yes.
Don't follow me, and there's no guarantee that you're going to be blessed. In fact, you're going to end up in misery.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we've been plowing through these stories, and God says that all these things in the Bible are for our example. Mm-hmm. So He shows us what it's like when you're a man after God's own heart, like David.
Sure.
There's the struggle early on. He's preparing him to be a king. When he survives that struggle, he becomes the greatest king. Unbelievable prosperity. His son rises up. He makes some mistakes in there, and there's consequences for that. We saw how his family struggled. And then Solomon steps in. He's like, I'm all about following God, and he does. And they go to unbelievable heights. The kings of the world came to see the wealth of Israel, to see the wisdom and hear the wisdom of Solomon. The world was amazed, just like God promised in Deuteronomy 28. They were amazed by them because they were, with what they had, they were pursuing God mostly. Solomon begins to fade late in his life. The kingdom leaves Solomon's family as a result, right? That's what happens. And the people of Israel just begin to walk further and further and further and further and further away from God until finally they were living exactly like the world. And so then what happens? Exactly what God said in Deuteronomy 28, same chapter.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be horrific for you. Why would you choose to live like the world and suffer like the world when God says, I promise to bless you? Everything you do. He literally says, I will bless everything you do and everywhere you go. If you follow me completely and wholly, he says, right?
You just mentioned a minute ago, it's so funny that you said this. You said David was the greatest king and Solomon was great. And then right at the end of his life, he sort of faded and then, allowed other worshiping of gods. Just yesterday, my son, he has pneumonia, so he's home from work. Oh. And he works outside a lot.
Get well, Stephen.
Yes. And he's at work today. He's back. But anyway, yesterday he gets up and he's made breakfast, and we have a nook out in our sunroom. And he says, come out and join me. So I come out and I'm sitting down. I'm not eating. I'm just sitting there watching him eat. He said, I have a question for you. He said, did Solomon stray at the end of his life? And I said, yeah. And I said, why are you asking me this? He's because I was listening to the Bible Guys. I have such a great commute back and forth to work. And I said, well, I didn't know you listened to the Bible Guys. He says, yeah, I listen.
That's awesome.
And he goes, I'm so disappointed. I said, why? He goes, because Solomon had wisdom.
Yeah.
He said Solomon he goes, I just looked at him as like the king, the only king that could have been greater than David because he had all the wisdom and he built the temple and and he was so rich and he was awesome. And he goes, and he goes, and then he just like threw it all away. And I said, well, it's at the end of his life. We talked about the women that he married and everything else. And he just said, he goes, I just can't believe that's the way that Solomon's life ended. And I thought to myself, wow, that is so funny. Yeah. That, but if you think about it, like it hit him heavy. Like it's a new piece of information, right? Yeah. And it's like, wow, you've spent your whole life trying really, really hard to follow God, and then at the very end you blow it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh.
And so the consequences are, it became a tradition among the Israelite kings to marry the daughters of pagan rulers.
Right.
And so they just keep perpetuating it, and it winds up getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Right? Yeah. So, and that's where they're at today. It's a horrible situation, just horrible.
Yeah.
Now, God brings them out of it eventually.
Right.
And there's a really cool story coming up about how God didn't forget even the lowest people, right? It was one of my favorite stories in the Bible, even in the middle of this horrible time. So
yeah. All right. Well, listen, that is definitely our time. So hopefully we will see you tomorrow on the Bible Guys.